Welcome to Profit Talks. I'm Mike. Today is Sunday, July 19th, 2026, and today we have to talk about Iran. Over the last week, both US and Iran went back at it again. We are basically back to what we've seen in March, so daily strikes across the whole region. The US is targeting mostly coastal Iran as well as some logistics up north, while Iran is targeting shipping, Gulf countries, as well as Jordan. Analysts on X generally disagree on what's the cause of this escalation and what's the future of it. So we will take a look at Polymarket and try to make sense of what's to come, what's the best possible forecast, and what we can expect in the next few days as well as next few weeks. After Iran, I will briefly move over to the UK because it seems that the new cabinet under Andy Burnham is almost finished and traders are pretty sure who we'll see in the main positions in the new cabinet. So tune in and understand the world better than anyone else. First, let's take a look at the Strait of Hormuz traffic normalization market. This is, in my opinion, the most important market that we have on the whole conflict on Polymarket. And the reason is very simple, because it's not only because the Strait of Hormuz is the main theater of action, at least now, it's also because it's the one indicator that will show you whether the conflict is ending or it's still going on. Because only when the traffic is back to normal, we can really say that the situation has normalized around the Strait of Hormuz, around Iran, and around the whole Persian Gulf. So as long as there will be some hostilities, some strikes, some unresolved differences between the US and Iran, the traffic through the strait will be somehow limited. It can be 10 ships, it can be 20, it can be 40, but to go above 60, as this market requires, we would need a general normalization between every country involved in the conflict. And for a very long time, traders believed that we should see this kind of normalization by the end of the year. As you can see, even during May, the price of the US shares on the market was above 70 cents, even often reached above 80 cents. And as we got to the MOU, at one point we reached even 91% chance the traffic for the strait will normalize by the end of the year. But ever since then, traders started to actually look at what's happening between the Iran, and the US. And what they saw was that neither side is exactly looking to end the conflict soon, because Iran was still trying to assert control of the strait, while at the same time the US was working really hard to push all the vessels through the Omani Channel. At the same time, across the region, the US was also working with Israel to actually deal with Hezbollah in Lebanon. So the recently signed Lebanon Framework Agreement between Lebanon, the US, and Israel specifies that those three countries will cooperate in order to restore full sovereignty of the Lebanese government, as well as their monopoly on arms. Essentially, it means that the US and Israel will help Lebanon to get rid of Hezbollah. And ever since that happened, somewhere a week or so after the MOU, we see the chances on the market really drop. And the canary in the coal mine, I would say, were the first ships that were hit by Iran just a couple of days after the framework agreement was signed. Ever since then, all the forecasts completely changed. So traders realized that this issue might in fact not be as easy as they thought, that the MOU is not really a document that it was sold to be. Sure, Iran and the US agreed in principle to some things, but even the Lebanon framework itself showed that the understanding that those parties had was a bit different, because from the perspective of the US and Israel, the Lebanon framework doesn't violate the MOU because it reaffirms Lebanon's sovereignty over its territory, etc., etc. However, in Iran's eyes, the Lebanon framework essentially allows Israel to stay in Lebanon for as long as Hezbollah still has arms. So essentially, it is a violation of their sovereignty. So this little misunderstanding led to vessels being attacked in the Strait of Hormuz, as Iran was and is trying to punish the US for breaking the MOU. The US obviously sees the Iranian strikes as the violation because it believes the Lebanon Framework Agreement is in fact not in conflict with the MOU. So this difference is what led to Trump saying that the MOU is effectively dead, and ever since then what we have is daily strikes between those two countries. And since then, traders had at least a week to internalize everything that's happening and the situation, and what they really see is that this conflict is more complicated than initially assumed. It's not only about Iran, it's also about Lebanon, about Yemen, about Gaza. It's generally about the whole region rather than the specific relationship between either the US and Iran or Israel and Iran. And seeing that, they really adjusted the forecast. So we went from 91% chance we will see the Straits return back to normal by the end of the year, down to pretty much 51% right now, which is as close to a coin flip as you can get. When we look at earlier strikes, so end of September, the story is even worse. Here we have only 20% chance. End of August, which is over a month from now, it's just 10%. So what traders are telling us right now by adjusting the prices on the market is that they don't really see the possibility for the next agreement to come anytime soon, and they don't really see a chance for the traffic to return back to normal. So no more Omani corridor, no more initiatives, rather small escort operations that would never get close to actually over 60 vessels over a 7-day period. What this means for us and for the world, well, you can write a book about it, because oil will hurt, fertilizer will hurt, aluminum would also go to the moon, same with natural gas, especially now when Europe is slowly but surely preparing for the winter. So this is not something you can see on energy markets, because when you look at the futures, so WTI or Brent, as benchmarks, they're still in the 80s. So it's really above the baseline, which was at the beginning of the year, but it's not as high as many would like it to be to actually soften the blow a few weeks from now, when we actually get to really, really low levels when it comes to raw oil as well as products. So that's the prospect when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. But as I've said before, this is not the only important situation, because what I do believe is that this escalation was caused by the Lebanon framework, and what we are seeing now is preparation for the actual fight in Lebanon. Iran, by targeting Kuwait, Bahrain, but also Jordan massively, for example, yesterday, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to clear some of the early detection system, as well as some of the platforms in the form of US bases that the US can use to either detect missiles or launch attacks themselves. At the same time, the US is trying to limit what the IRGC can do in the Strait of Hormuz. So by heavily targeting the whole coast of Iran, so whole southern Iran, what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut the IRGC from supplies from northern Iran. And they're just preparing for the escalation in Lebanon, because while they won't really take part offensively in Lebanon, this is only on Israel to do. They'll participate in defense of Israel, because we can surely expect some Iranian strikes on Israel once the offensive in Lebanon ramps up. But at the same time, they'll also try to escort more tankers through the strait to extend the runway that US, Israel, and basically the whole world has before the oil stops flowing. So as we can see, those strikes are not some escalation trap. This is not some downward spiral that neither side can really exit. It's just a preparation for what's to come. So in the next couple of weeks, probably, depending on what's happening internally, we can expect the operation in Lebanon to ramp up. And then we should see even more escalation, because we will see strikes in Lebanon, we'll see strikes between Iran and Israel, we'll see strikes between the US and Iran, and the region would most likely go into even deeper conflict. But what they're doing now is trying to limit each other's ability to inflict enormous pain. Who will succeed? I don't think we have the answers right now because of the fog of war. But I do think that both sides are actually gaining a lot in their respective fields. But the real difference is, we all know them once the Lebanon operation fully starts. And then only then we'll really see who had better success during this phase that we're seeing right now. But let's look at different markets and let's try to understand if traders also follow this kind of train of thought. Because the next market that is really interesting is US ex-Iran effective ceasefire buy. So this market is trying to answer a simple question. By which date will the daily strikes end? And the rules are pretty simple. So if we have the market on July 24th, it means that if by July 24th we have at least one day that both sides don't strike each other, and this one day translates into 14 days of not striking each other. So since July 24th, we go on for 14 days, so 2 weeks without any strikes. Then this is considered as effective ceasefire, and the July 24th market can resolve to yes. I hope I explained it clearly, but in fewer words, it means we need 2 weeks of no strikes that start before the resolution date. So as you can see, the market is not really hopeful that we will see 14 days of pause anytime soon, because by the end of July we only have 16% chance. It's been like that ever since the market was created, so it's not a shocker. We started at 23%, now we are down to 16%. Pretty much we shouldn't expect a stop, and this is also aligned with what I said before. So if really both sides are preparing for a confrontation in a different part of the region, this will mean that these strikes will not stop anytime soon. So this is almost 2 weeks from now, and this is only 16% chance. Then we have August 13th, so this is this is 3 weeks from now, almost 4, and here we have only 30% chance. So this also means that traders see it as rather likely that we will see daily, or at least every other day, some strikes between Iran and US by mid-August. I think this is also the date of the end of the MOU, so the 60-day period in which negotiation was supposed to take place. I think this also means that traders don't really see the MOU as binding anymore. Like, effectively, every clause of the MOU is breached at this point, like every important clause that matter to the status quo that we see right now. So I think this is a fair assessment. What is even more interesting is when we look at August 31st, because this is almost a month and a half from now, and here traders see just 49% chance we will see an effective ceasefire. So contrary to what we've seen back in March, April, even May, then traders are really hopeful that the situation will stop soon. But first, after the ceasefire, then the MOU, then it broke down, and I think traders now understand that this is not a conflict that we can solve in a few weeks or a couple of months. They see it as a complex confrontation between a few nations, some of them regional, some of them global, that will shape up how the Middle East looks in the next decades to come. And one more comment about this market. I think this 49% is a tad too high. And if we really get the escalation I'm thinking about when it comes to Lebanon and the interaction between the regional countries and the US, then we'll see the price on this market drop probably a lot in a very short period of time. But this is only till the end of August. What we really care about is not actually an effective ceasefire or an open Strait of Hormuz. Ultimately, we do care about this conflict ending, whether we live in Europe, Asia, or Africa, or America. We are all affected by what's happening there, and we will be affected even more. So what's really interesting to us is the final nuclear deal, which is very well defined here. This is a very long rule set when it comes to Polymarket, and this specifies that the agreement really needs to be final. It can't be an MOU because it needs to address comprehensively what Iran does with its nuclear stock as well as nuclear capabilities. And here the story is extremely interesting. We've got August 13th, so this is the MOU deadline. We see that it went from very low 14% down to now 1.5%. So this is essentially dead in the water. End of August was a bit more hopeful because traders initially saw quite a fair chance we can see a deal maybe a week or 2 weeks past the MOU deadline. But here the hopes are also really low. We are just at 6% chance, so we shouldn't expect that anytime soon. September, I don't think it's an interesting market, but then end of year, you see we had 45% chance of a deal in the beginning, up until the recent escalation, I would say. And now traders see only 29% chance Iran and the US can come to a final agreement this year. I don't think I need to tell you what this means for oil, Strait of Hormuz, inflation, general energy availability, food, plastic, etc., etc. It is all affected. What I do think now is that there is still too much premium between the final deal and the Strait of Hormuz market. So here we have 29%, and here we have on the end of year market 51%. So this is quite a big premium because you will need another MOU situation, but better. We will need another interim deal that would open the Strait of Hormuz for over 60 vessels a day over at least 7 days without actually getting close to a final agreement. I find that a bit doubtful that this is the course of action that we will take. But I do agree with the overall assessment that the final deal is not as close as many would like. There are still a lot of issues to resolve, and I do dive deeper into them on my Substack. So if you're interested in the situation, I published an article yesterday about what I think is coming and how you should prepare for it. Take a look at it at profitnotes.com. But here, the conclusion is that I broadly agree with what the market is telling us here, that the chances for a final deal are rather low this year, and this conflict will take longer than expected. I think this is all I can say right now. I would love to dive deeper into it, but we do need to see some further development. So I think outside of some major stuff happening, I think the next update on the situation in Iran, Strait of Hormuz, Lebanon, etc. will come once we see real action in Lebanon. And then we will understand and we will see and we will know what is really happening right now. So with that in mind, let's move on to the UK and see if the new cabinet under Andy Burnham can actually be better than what we've seen under Keir Starmer. Initially, Polymarket traders were pretty sure they know what the new cabinet in the UK will look like. So pretty soon after we learned that Keir Starmer is actually resigning, that we will have Andy Burnham as the next Prime Minister, the markets on the next Chancellor of the Exchequer, the next Foreign Secretary, and the next Home Secretary spun up. And very soon after those markets were created, traders already got their favorites. So on the Chancellor of the Exchequer, we had Ed Miliband at 65 and even 68% chance to get a job. On Foreign Secretary, we expected no change, and in Home Secretary, we also expected no change. So essentially, the market was understanding the situation in a given way. They saw the resignation of Keir Starmer being mostly forced by the fiscal situation of the UK. So they imagined that the next Prime Minister, so Andy Burnham, will not really reshuffle the cabinet as much, but will rather do some targeted changes and be the new face of the Labour Party that will lead them towards the next election. Ed Miliband was I would say, easy choice for him because they're both great allies. So Andy Burnham and Ed Miliband are allies in the Labour Party. So he was seen as a trusted friend of Andy that can help him usher in a new financial agenda that will break up with what Keir Starmer has left. However, soon after the market started and traders chose their favorites, there's been a bit of confusion because Andy Burnham was very slow to actually confirm anyone. He still hasn't confirmed anyone to this day. And at the same time, we started to see all kinds of jockeying for positions, I would say, because there started to appear pieces, rumors, scoops, leaks, call them however you want, all over the British media about how this person is that, how Ed Miliband is not fit for the Chancellor of Exchequer, etc., etc. And initially, those rumors went without any response. So what I think happened was that Andy Burnham and his advisors were actually trying to figure out if whatever is in the media is actually strong enough to derail the new beginning. And I would say that initially they didn't really see this as a major threat. However, since the rumors were quite persistent and we saw that pretty much Ed Miliband is a bit too far to the left for the people in general. So there was a growing fear, rather than a fading fear, that the new Chancellor of the Exchequer and the new cabinet will not, in fact, bring the change that was expected. So just a week ago, I would say, we started to see a bit of shuffling around. So as the Andy Burnham's confirmation date approached, because he's supposed to be the Prime Minister on Tuesday, I think, or on Monday. Regardless, in the next couple of days, he really needed to actually say to everyone who will get the top jobs, right? Because there needs to be a transition period. The new people, the new politicians getting the jobs need to actually dive into the job, understand what's going on, take over the responsibilities, start preparing new plans, etc., etc. So as this date approaches, we need to get some clarity. So a few days ago, we saw that it's not Ed Miliband, but it's Shabana Mahmood who is the favorite to be the next Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here it's pretty simple. Shabana is considered to be more moderate in the Labour Party. So giving her the Chancellor of the Exchequer position would signal to the market, to the investors, to the world, to the people that the new the new government will take a few steps back from Starmer's agenda when it comes to the finances, and will have a more moderate view of UK's finances. I'm probably in no way fit to judge if this is actually a good choice or not. I'm not that well versed in the UK politics, but I do see the connection. Looking at the articles when I was preparing for this video, it was pretty clear that a lot of the articles really underscored how left-wing Ed Miliband is, and how this looks like no change versus the promised change. So I think this is a logical step forward. I think that the hesitation to actually announce the new cabinet came from the fact that Andy Burnham staff actually wanted to check how the current perception, so how the first set of candidates is being received by the general public. I think this is a fairly good strategy. It happens quite often in politics and in business. So often the rumors you see are just being floated to check the public sentiment. And I think this is what happened here, and this is why we are getting Shabana Mahmood versus Ed Miliband. But as in business, in politics is the same. You generally do not leave your allies. So Ed Miliband is being rewarded in another way, because the market was not really expecting that we will see a new foreign secretary. But since he needs to get the job, some job that is important because he is the closest ally, then the foreign secretary seems like a good fit. His left-wing agenda won't be such a problem when it comes to foreign affairs. This is also something that's being coordinated on a more on a cabinet level and government level, rather than being a standalone policy. And being the face of foreign policy is quite different than being the face of home finances or domestic affairs like Home Secretary. So this is quite a logical choice for Ed Miliband. We'll see how he will do in the job, but this is obviously something that the market missed. As you can see, Ed Miliband was not even in the contest up until July 15th, which shows you that the market was really caught by surprise here. It's quite amazing to me. I was not trading this market, but it's fascinating to see how difficult it is to actually extract some signal from the scraps of information we get, because in hindsight, it's quite obvious that Ed Miliband was a bad choice for the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But even 2 weeks ago, no one really thought to even try and create a market for him for another job. So that's what I find really interesting. At the same time, if you have some insight on how you see Ed Miliband as the Foreign Secretary, if you have any strong opinions on that, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to read them and try to understand where you're coming from. Okay, so this is Foreign Secretary. We have one more important position, which is Home Secretary. And here we also have little surprise, because currently the favorite to get it, after also the market thinking there will be no new Home Secretary in the new cabinet, is Wes Streeting. And this comes not as a surprise to me, but it does come as a surprise for the market. Wes Streeting was a strong ally of Keir Starmer. He was the health secretary. Yeah, he was the health secretary. He supported Keir Starmer for a very long time. He was one of his closest advisors. And somewhere a month before Keir Starmer resigned, he stepped down from the cabinet and denounced the current government, the then current government of Keir Starmer, in what was described as a surprising development in the relationship of those two guys. So I had it in the back of my mind that he should be rewarded somehow by Andy Burnham if it all comes together. So I was a bit surprised initially to see that West Trading is not a favorite to be either of the three at the beginning, because I thought that he probably wouldn't take such a risk, such a political risk, if he wasn't promised some kind of reward for his sacrifice. So when I look now at the Home Secretary market and see West Trading as not a strong favorite, but as a favorite to be one in the next few days, I think this is broadly correct. So whatever happened here on the spike to 88%, I don't know if it was a rumor or fake rumor or just a big whale trying to buy a big position on West Trading. As you see, the volume of the market was rather low and the order book is rather thin. So this might have been a mistake, because currently to up the price to 88 cents you need 43k, but at the very beginning, even a few days ago, it may have been in less, like 8k, and this is not something that is a lot when it comes to the biggest traders on the market. So I don't know if it was a fat thump or it was a rumor, but anyway, I do think that this is a correct assessment. I think West Trading should get one of the top 3 jobs for his sacrifice, and as we are a couple of days away from the confirmation and from Andy Burnham becoming the next Prime Minister of the UK, finally I think the market got it right. So I don't think there is a lot of doubt when it comes to Chancellor of the Exchequer. Shabana Mahmood, I think, is a good choice considering how she is perceived by the general public and the market. Foreign Secretary also seems logical because Ed Miliband is one of the closest allies of Andy Burnham. So those two guys should probably work closely. And Foreign Affairs is quite a busy position, I would say, right now, considering everything that's happening in the world. And lastly, Home Secretary is always an important position, and it's a step up for West Trading, who was Health Secretary before. So I like this composition because I feel that everyone that needs to be rewarded is rewarded, and at the same time, it brings a bit of freshness into this new Labour government that hopes to revive some of the support before the upcoming elections. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching. I am curious to know what's your opinion about the Iran war. I know that my theory is not especially popular among the analyst circles, but at the same time I do believe that they don't really do their job very well in the recent months. So I think they're really missing the wider point of this war, and I am very curious to understand what is your opinion, and if you think I'm right, or rather you have a bit different perception of what's happening in the region. At the same time, I will also be curious to know more about UK politics, so if any one of you is watching it more closely, it would be great to understand what is your perception on the shape of the new cabinet and how it works when it comes to the elections. I think they're next year, and if Labour has any actual chance to challenge Reform UK, as they've been getting ahead in the polls last I checked. Also, if you enjoy my analysis, you should take a look at my Substack at profitnotes.com and my X account at profit_notes, where I publish pretty much on a daily basis my comments on the global affairs and what's happening in prediction markets. Also, if you enjoyed the video, leave the thumbs up, click that subscribe button. It'll help prediction markets spread when it comes to real serious analysis of the world. So again, thank you for watching, and see you next week for another round of Profit Talks.